country can only be prosperous and achieve high economic growth if it's actually very strong in science and technology. There are Einsteins and Marie Curies everywhere in Indonesia, all the way from Aceh to Papua. However, the opportunities for those Einsteins wannabes and Marie Curie's wannabes are not there right now. So it is the duty of the government to actually create that opportunities, and this is where Sekolah Garuda is taking a role. And President Prabowo wants to give those crème de la crème of Indonesia, regardless of their economic background, regardless of where they live in Indonesia, the opportunities to get the best education.
Garuda School.
Flying.
To realize equal access to education and create world-class future leaders, especially in science and technology in Indonesia, the Indonesian government, through the Ministry of Higher Education, Science and Technology, is running a program called Sekolah Garuda, or Garuda School. How's the program running? Let's check this one out.
Anak-anak, kami titip negeri ini kepada kalian. Teruslah belajar, cintai temanmu, cintai, hormati orang tuamu, cintai pemimpinmu, cintai Indonesia, berbuatlah untuk mereka semua. Anak-anakku, masa depan Indonesia ada di tangan kalian.
Voice of Indonesia, from Indonesia to the world. Welcome to Voice of Indonesia's podcast. Today we're diving into a remarkable initiative that's redefining Indonesia's education landscape, which is Sekolah Garuda, or the Garuda School program. It is an initiative to develop Indonesia's science and technology, preparing the nation's young generation to become world-class leaders, and to share the vision, the progress, and the impact of this program. Today we are very honored to be joined by the Indonesian Vice Minister of Higher Education, Science and Technology, Professor Stella Christie, Ph.D. Hello, Professor Stella. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. Very glad to be here at
Yes,
Voice of Indonesia.
It's a very pleasure to have you here. So, we're talking about the Garuda School. What could you explain to our listeners and viewers worldwide?
The Garuda School has been a long time vision of our president, President Prabowo. This is one of the vision and also the dream that if you look at President Prabowo's writing back even to 2012, he has actually put forward this idea for a long time. Why? So before we go into the details of the program, I think it's very important for all of us to understand why. President Prabowo sees that the facts of what presented to us is that everywhere in the world, a country can only be prosperous and achieve high economic growth if it's actually very strong in science and technology. And you know, Barama, it's very interesting. We are also celebrating Nobel Prize winners. There are 3 Nobel Prize winners in economics. One of them is Professor Joel Mokyr, who is the professor at Northwestern University. I got my Ph.D. at Northwestern. And why am I mentioning him? Professor Joel Mokyr work is actually about his research tells us that economic growth is first and foremost must be achieved through technological innovation. President Prabowo understood this very well, and he has the vision of really increasing and optimizing the science and technology of Indonesia. And how to do that? He also has a strategy, and the strategy is to, of course, to nurture the human capital that actually can contribute to the science and technological progress of and science and technology innovation in Indonesia. And his strategy, aside from right now, we are standing or sitting at the Ministry of Higher Education, Science and Technology, which is, of course, before it was not a separate ministry, but President Prabowo's commitment to science and technology is very high. That's why he put this ministry, a ministry of its own, of higher education, science and technology. Aside from that, he also sees that if we want to achieve things within a relatively short amount of time, it's also very important to nurture the very best of Indonesia, the creme de la creme of Indonesia, in a high school that is specialized for these people. So that's where the Garuda High School comes from. And it has a very, very important characteristic. The first characteristic is that President Prabowo sees that there are Einsteins and Marie Curies everywhere in Indonesia, all the way from Aceh to Papua. However, the opportunities for those Einstein's wannabes and Marie Curie's wannabes are not there right now. So it is the duty of the government to actually create that opportunities, and this is where Sekolah Garuda is taking a role, is to really answer that issue, that problem, that we have amazing talents in Indonesia, but those amazing talents do not always have the opportunity to get the best education. So in order to actually really give access to the best education to everyone who is most talented from Indonesia, President Prabowo created the Garuda High School.
Okay, so this is the Indonesian government task to not let the hidden Einsteins.
Of course, it's to actually uncover the hidden Einsteins and give them the opportunities, give them the access. Whereas right now, I think we might have all those people everywhere, but they might, because of the family that they're born in, the situation that they are in, they don't always have the access to actually get the best educations. If we actually look at the educations in Indonesia right now, and the data really shows us, there are great schools, but most of those great schools are actually for those who come from privileged economic background, and not for everyone. And President Prabowo wants to give those creme de la creme of Indonesia, regardless of their economic background, regardless of where they live in Indonesia, the opportunities to get the best education.
All right, now it's time for paving the way for them then. So let's start from the foundation first. Garuda School is designed as a model boarding high school with a national curriculum combined with global standards. So what will make Garuda School different from regular schools in terms of teaching methods, facilities, or others?
Yeah, we're not talking about facilities. That's not what make a school will be. We're talking about what is the characteristics of the school. And we're talking about what is this school is actually addressing. The first thing that we are addressing is that problem, that in Indonesia, we do not have equal opportunities. We do not have equal access for the best educations. And Sekolah Garuda, first and foremost, is addressing that. In addressing this, Sekolah Garuda really stands out from any other top schools that are in Indonesia, for any other high quality schools at Indonesia, because it's giving access. So to do this, Sekolah Garuda is actually going to give scholarships for at least 80% of the students. So those students who are actually have very good academic achievements, but they come from family who cannot afford. They come from families who cannot afford to go to the best schools. Now they will be able to do that in Sekolah Garuda. Secondly, Sekolah Garuda is really put of the second pillar of Sekolah Garuda is that we are actually really creating the new leaders of Indonesia. And what kind of new leaders that we want? Clearly, we want the new leaders who are able to compete internationally, to compete in the world, who are at ease speaking in international capacity, just like our president right now. At the same time, we need to have leaders who are very attuned to the diversity of Indonesia, are able to have empathy about the Indonesian, what makes Indonesia today, of the difficulties and all the challenges of Indonesia, as well as of the successes and being of Indonesia. And in order to do that, we are creating a third pillar of the Garuda High School, is that not only the school has to excel academically, but the students will be required to really give back to the communities around them. So Garuda High School is very special. It's not an exclusive high school. It's a high school that is very inclusive, and yet it's a high school that's also very special. I want to give maybe a metaphor to make it very easy to understand for the viewers. The metaphor comes from sports. Okay, if we ask, Lionel Messi, he comes from a very very average family. In fact, I think his family are actually not affluent at all, right? And have difficulties of actually being able. But he did have the opportunities to play football, just like outside, right? However, there is a very important question. If Messi didn't get the special opportunities to be trained in the best football clubs, right, would he become Lionel Messi? And I think the answer is no. And so this is what Sekolah Garuda is. Yes, everyone should get the opportunity to get educations. And for this, President Prabowo already created that. That's Sekolah Rakyat. For those who come from the extreme poverty and those who couldn't go to school beforehand, it's currently being built many Sekolah Rakyat, or school for the people. And this accommodates a huge number of Indonesians who before may not be able to go to school and now able to go to school. But we also need very special school so that potential Einsteins, or the analog is like Lionel Messi's, will have that best clubs that train them, and that's Sekolah Garuda. So that's what makes Sekolah Garuda very special.
And how will it work? Based on the data here, there will be two schemes, like New Garuda Schools and Garuda Transformation Schools. Yeah,
there are two schemes. Why? Because a great vision, that is the vision of President Prabowo, also needs a very sharp analysis and impactful strategy. So the strategy is this: we have to create those opportunities, create those access, and when we look at the data, so first we actually do research. President Prabowo has asked me to think about Sekolah Garuda concept since 2024. And so we've been doing the research. What do we mean by research? We're collecting data. What really is the landscape and what really is the need in Indonesia? And what we found is that first, there are actually already good schools in Indonesia. And those good schools, however, can be optimized. And what do I mean by optimized? We're talking about the numbers of graduates from those very good high schools that are accepted in top universities. Indonesia is still very low in contributing to undergraduates in top universities around the world. Just to give an example, when I was an undergraduate, I got a scholarship to go to Harvard University. And I did my education in Indonesia. And I didn't even learn English until I was 12. But all throughout at Harvard for 4 years, I was the only student from Indonesia for 4 years.
The only
undergraduate students. In graduate schools at Harvard, there are Indonesians, but undergraduates, very few. At my time at Harvard, there's one. We can check it right now. I don't know the numbers, but I'm guessing not more than 10. Maybe not even more than 5. It's so difficult to get in to undergraduates. So when we look at this, there are good schools that we can optimize so our really good students can get into to the best schools. And this is why we have one of the scheme to optimize an already existing good high schools. Okay. And this is called the transformative high school, transformative Garuda High School. So the other one the other one, we also see that the data shows us that there are many areas in Indonesia where there are not even such schools, because most of those schools are actually perhaps like in Java or in Sumatra, already existing good high schools. But in many areas of Indonesia, those are not available. And exactly for those, we need to build a new, and this is what's called the new Garuda schools. So very interesting for the viewers actually. For the new Garuda schools, there will be only 20 of them. Until 2029 that we will build. There will be not more than 20. We're going to build them from a new. Everything is going to be built from a new students, new teachers, and it's going to be boarding schools. But very special, they are actually going to be built outside Java, all of them. Yeah, there's not going to be new school. We're very serious about giving access, and so if anybody has any thinking that this is elite. It's not even built in Java. This is actually going to be built in East Belitung. This is going to be built in Nusa Tenggara Timur. This is going to be built in Papua. So this really is to give access. Yeah.
For equal distribution.
Yes, so that everyone from Indonesia, our creme de la creme, the best students from Indonesia's any region, will actually have the ability to go to these Garuda schools.
And about the transformative schools, I mean the ministry or the government carries out the selection process, or the school make a proposal?
Yes, both. That means we actually open it for both scheme, for new Garuda schools and for the transformative Garuda schools. We actually make it into an open competition. So for the new Garuda schools, it's actually an open competitions that we open to that we work together with the Ministry of Internal Affairs and let know all the provinces. The people at the provinces that they actually can submit data like human index, the human capital index in their regions, the school report in their region, what is the level of poverty, level of employment, and very importantly, whether they actually have land that they are willing to actually contribute for the Sekolah Garuda. So these are submitted to us, and we have a very clear rubric about how to select this, and a very open and transparent process. And the principle is just one: the area, that needs the most will get the opportunity to be where the new Sekolah Garuda is built. And for the transformative Garuda school, the Garuda high schools, these we also do the same thing. We open it to all the schools, the existing high schools, to submit to us their current data. And from there, the principle is existing high schools that are already very good but still can be optimized. It is an open competition. Yeah.
So what if there are potential students, but they are not from the 12 transformative schools, so they have to be admitted to the new school?
Yes. For the transformative schools, we do not change anything in terms of what's already going on, because they're already very good. So we are not changing. We're not changing the students. We are not. The ministry are not doing anything about the students, the teachers, the curriculum, the buildings. That's not what we're doing. What we're doing is we're working together with them to prepare the students, the teachers, and the school managements about what is the best strategy for them to actually be known by top universities around the world and be accepted in greater numbers by top universities in the world. But for those of you who are not yet in those transformative Garuda schools, and for those of you particularly who are about to enter high schools, there is great opportunity for you to consider and work hard from now on and prepare yourself to actually be entering the Garuda high schools. The Garuda high schools are going to be built in different areas. This year, we are currently building 4 new Garuda schools, and they will be ready for 2026, the academic year of 2026-2027. So for those of you in the junior high school or SMP in Indonesian, you can prepare yourself right now, because the selection process will be done nationally. So it will be done here at the ministry. Anyone from anywhere in Indonesia can apply. And then we will actually distribute the students across those 4 areas. So it will not be, for example, the Garuda school in the East Belitung will not only be for students in East Belitung. Quite the contrary, it will be for students for across all Indonesia, and they will be the ones who were, and we will mix them, because the idea is for everyone from across the archipelago, our archipelago, to be able to live and study together. Yeah. So for those of you who are currently in grade 9, prepare yourself. Yes, there will be a great opportunity.
Okay. Yeah. What to prepare then?
Yeah. So what to prepare? Certainly your academic achievement is the most important one. And we are very, very serious about what we talk about just now, about access. And so what does it mean? That even in the criteria of selecting the schools, President Prabowo already said, this is for the best students. This is for the creme de la creme. So we need those of you who are the best. But President Prabowo and we who are working day to day to realize this concept also are very aware that there are disparities in the current. There are disparities in everyone's environment right now, and disparities is everywhere, and we need to be smart about how can we reduce these disparities. So in the selection criteria of the Garuda schools, we are only going to give 3 subject tests. What are those 3 subject tests? The first subject test is mathematics. The second subject test is Bahasa Indonesia. And the third subject test is English language. Okay. Only those 3. We are not going to test you in your physics or biology. Why? Because we understand that there are great disparities. Some areas in Indonesia don't even have biology teachers, maybe. I don't even have maybe like physics teachers. But mathematics teachers everywhere in Indonesia, you guys have the access for that. And yes, there is still maybe disparities about that. Maybe the quality of mathematics teachers in Jakarta is still a little bit higher than the quality of mathematics teachers in other outside areas, in other areas in Indonesia. But it's still like the best that we can do to reduce that disparity. Nothing is perfect, but reduce disparity is only these 3 subjects. So prepare yourself in those 3 subjects on mathematics, on Bahasa Indonesia, and on your English language. Yeah. And then secondly, be very confident. If you think that you come from a poor family, if you come from family who cannot afford to go to schools, there are scholarships for you. In fact, 30% of the component of the criteria to get into Sekolah Garuda will be based on the economic background of your family. That is, the lesser you are able, that your family is able to afford to go to any schools, the higher the points that you will give. So if we're talking about, let's say, equal academic achievement between 2 people, but one come from a low economic background, these students will actually be getting higher points. They'll be more likely to get into Sekolah Garuda.
Okay, then so there is no more excuse to keep up the spirit high.
Definitely.
All right. And now, how to ensure the equality? Because this program will spread across regions in Indonesia, right?
Yeah.
How to ensure the quality in terms of the facilities, like dormitories, laboratories, and qualified teachers.
Yes. In terms of the qualities of the buildings, the academic buildings, the place of living, the dormitories, we do again a huge number of research. So right now there is a blueprint already of Sekolah Garuda where it actually really put in details about what kind of facilities. And when we're talking about facilities, we're not only talking about facilities for the sake of facilities only. We're very serious about what kind of facilities really support the learning and teaching processes. We even do research where we come up with in Indonesian, it's called in Indonesia, we actually collate like papers that shows what kind of buildings. And here's a very interesting research, for example, and we put this in across this. There's actually research, there's a lot of interest and excitement about digital, and in fact, I think you're probably gonna ask about digital, but let me put it aside about digital. What kind of digital that you use? Do you know that the research actually shows that immersive video, immersive virtual reality is actually not making students learn better compared to traditional teaching. So these are empirical evidence. So why is this important? Because you need to be very serious about thinking about what kind of facilities are actually really needed. So for example, blackboards everywhere are very, very important, because that actually facilitate the teachers and the students to be able to spontaneously and to have to think. Because if you're just watching virtual reality, you don't really have to think much. You're just absorbing passively and sitting there. But you have to write. Maybe you remember when we were small and we'll be called to the blackboard by the teachers. Okay, like solve this problem right here. Well, that's very hard. Like you have to think and you have to be on your feet for doing that.
That's one of the tense moments.
Yes, it's one of the tense moments. And so you have to do that. So this is just an example, but we're very serious and we do research. We look at the empirical data, and that's for the building. But there's very important things about the buildings. In these buildings, we also really, really ensure that the teachers get the best facility. So there will be housing for the teachers, and for the housing for the students, we say that can be very simple. As long as it fills the need, that's fine. 3 years of living simply, it's actually even good for education. But the teachers, they get the best housing that we can afford for the Sekolah Garuda. So that's the standard. We put a very high standard for the teachers.
Okay, so that's I think one of the important things, that besides paying attention to the students, also the teacher welfare.
Yeah,
right.
The teacher welfare is actually first and foremost, because again, research actually shows that the very key of what makes a successful school, any school, is just one: the teachers, really. Yeah.
Okay, and now education doesn't end at high school.
Of course.
So what is the connection between Garuda schools and universities? Any partnership or pathways that help Garuda graduates to continue to higher education in Indonesia and abroad?
Yeah, I'm very glad that you asked this, because I think a lot of people also ask, like, why is a high school actually put in the Ministry of Higher Education, Science and Technology? So I hope the first part of this answer is very clear, which is that the science and technology. And President Prabowo wants to put it in the Ministry of Higher Education, Science and Technology precisely because he would like the involvement of the universities from the very beginning. How beginning? Like really, really from the very beginning. So every time we actually select even the location of the new Garuda schools, we are already involving universities. Viewers can actually see in all my activities of visiting the potential locations for Sekolah Garuda, I always also visit the universities in that area. Why? Because the universities in that area actually contain experts who really know what kind of land do they have, what kind of history behind this land, what kind of social relationship that actually needs to be preserved, what kind within that area. So the experts, we are also President Prabowo also wanted that when the high school students are actually studying in Garuda schools, they will already be exposed to research mindset, to how to actually do research. And who can teach them best? Who can give them this involvement? The university professors from the local universities. So when those Garuda high schools students are in high schools, they will actually already be connected with the university professors to be involved in their research. So they are exposed to research mindset. And this is also very good pragmatically. Do you know why? Because high school students who actually can do research and have experience doing research with professors are will have an even greater chance of getting into top schools like Stanford, like Harvard, like MIT or Oxford and Cambridge. We know this from data for sure. It's not just something that we think, but we actually have done the research as well. So that's also very pragmatic. And then the third thing is that we are also ensuring that those students who come from less advantaged economic backgrounds, if they get in, so not only that they will get scholarship when they are actually during the high school, but if they actually get into top schools, to top universities, they will also get full scholarship from the government. So we are ensuring this. Yeah. So university is at every process of this Garuda school. It is a high school that is a pre-university program, and that's why it's put in the Ministry of Higher Education. It is also a high school that will involve the professors from our universities, from our Indonesian universities, to be the instructors, to be the teachers, to be the mentors of these high school students. And we expect when these high school students get into universities, top universities abroad, they will continue the collaborations with the local university professors. So our university professors will know university professors from Harvard and from MIT, and we will create these connections of, don't forget, the first and foremost goal is to increase and to check up the science and technology, the human capital that can produce science and technology in Indonesia.
Yes, at the end of the day,
Yes.
building the nation.
Yeah.
Okay, running a program must need funding.
Yes.
So how to ensure the long-term financial sustainability for this program?
Yes, this is again, I think President Prabowo not only have a vision but also already put the strategy.
Yes.
So Garuda School is actually one of the strategic national program, and so the funding for the Garuda School was already put aside from the very beginning. So the first thing is that the Garuda School already have like the funding within the funding of the ministry, but not only that, we are also already set aside a funding of endowment. So the endowment is actually going to be put in another institution, and that's at LPDP, and this is to ensure that that the yield of this endowment is actually going to be able to be used for a really long time, the yield of the endowment to support Sekolah Garuda's running. So for these first 5 years, for the remaining 4 years until 2029, there's already commitment to actually always to have the funding for the building of the Sekolah Garuda and for the running of the Sekolah Garuda. At the same time, we are also already building and creating the endowment fund for Sekolah Garuda that we can use after 2029. The yield of that endowment fund is to actually continue to support Sekolah Garuda. You know, I like the word endowment in Indonesian because endowment in Indonesian is dana abadi, so it's a long-lasting fund. So I really like that thing. So it's really long-lasting because we don't touch the endowment, we only use the yield. But since we are very prudent and building the endowment from now on, it ensures that endowment stays there always, and the yield is the one that can be used for Sekolah Garuda. Yeah.
Long-lasting fund.
Yes, long-lasting
and
fund.
Impact.
Yeah.
Hopefully. And finally, now let's look ahead, like 10 years from now.
Yeah.
What is your vision for the ideal Garuda School graduate?
Yes. Someone who is confident to say to the world that Indonesia is a very strong country. At the same time, this person also is able to understand why is the neighbor next to him or her still needs a touch of empathy, still needs a lot of effort to make everybody to be like him or her. So in Indonesian, we call it wawasan global kepekaan lokal. Someone who has the vision of the global world, but also have the ability, the tuning to everyone around him or her in Indonesia. So that's what we really want. In the big picture, again, we actually really in the big picture, we actually really want to go back to the vision of President Prabowo, that we are going to build the science and technology of Indonesia, right? And we're building the science and technology of Indonesia through Indonesian people, and through Indonesian people that come from anywhere and that come from various backgrounds. So those Indonesians who currently maybe are not right now thinking that you will be the leader of Indonesia, you can. And you can be the leader of Indonesia, no matter from what family background you come from, because maybe you can get into Sekolah Garuda and you will be that next leader of Indonesia. Yeah.
And hopefully 10 years from now, or even faster than that, there will be hundreds as Indonesian students at the Harvard or
That's
other
of course what
top
we hope
global
for.
university.
Yes.
Not only one.
No, I think we are very confident that can be achieved, and this is a realistic. Confidence must be supported by real program, by sharp analysis, by strategy, and we believe working together under the leadership of President Prabowo, we can realize this vision.
Okay, and now to spread that optimism more, now I would like to invite you to this segment,
Okay.
which is called Top of Mind.
Yeah.
So I would like to mention some words, and you have to mention the first words coming to your mind,
Okay.
related to the words I'm going to mention.
Okay.
Are you ready and confident?
Confident not, but I guess I have to be ready.
Okay, ready, set, go. The first one is science and technology.
Economic growth.
Indonesia's education.
Research.
Golden Indonesia 2045.
The people.
Young generation.
Amazing.
Garuda School.
Flying.
Flying high, just like Garuda itself, right? Okay, Professor Stella, thank you so much for sharing your insights about Sekolah Garuda.
Thank
or
you so much,
Garuda
Madam.
School. We look forward to seeing how the Garuda schools will continue to nurture future leaders
Okay.
for Indonesia and of course the world.
Yes, please do check out all the Garuda information, and we're very happy to share this with the public. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Well, VOI listeners and viewers, that's today's special podcast on Voice of Indonesia on the Garuda School, where Indonesian future leaders are ready to conquer the world, yet are still grounded in Indonesian values. So I'm Rahma signing out. Thank you for watching.